this is just a quick video. You know, I'm not responsible for anything that goes wrong. You know, don't do this at home. So we're gonna go ahead and jump on that street bike back there and get these seals in, and we'll get started. Alright guys, here's just a quick breakdown of some of the stuff that we're going to be using today here for this job. We have everything from, you know, just basic tools. We have the valve cover gaskets and rings, which we'll get into that. We have some plugs, and we have the seal kit that I bought, as well as new wires. You also have some, you know, paper towels to keep everything, you know, nice and tidy as you work. And we'll go ahead and get started. Alright guys, here it is. So just a quick breakdown of what we're going to be doing here, so that way you guys see what worked for me. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing all of this here. You can find out how to do that on one of my previous videos. We're going to go ahead and remove the battery, and we're also going to go ahead and remove the tray back there. Along with that, we have some you know, hoses that we're going to be taking off. So we're going to be taking off this. We've got these sensors that we're going to go ahead and disconnect. This one's got a little pull pin, as you can see on this one right here. It's a little pin that we're going to take off, so make sure that you don't lose that pin. On the back, we've got the EGR tube, and then the bracket that holds this in place. We've got a bolt here, 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 and another one on this side over here. We're also going to go ahead and disconnect these sensors. As you can see back here. Here's a GR2. I'm not sure if you guys can see that really good, but there's that bracket, you see. There's the bracket back there. And then let's see if I can get that tube. And then in the back, you see it back there on that firewall, there's that hose. We're going to disconnect that from there. So that's going to go ahead and allow us to lift this up some. And then I'll go ahead and flash some more pictures, you know, as we go along, so you can follow along. So before we get started, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get rid of this crusty battery. And disconnect all that stuff before you work with any electrical. That's one of the first things that you want to do. So we'll go ahead and start there, and then we'll move on to everything else. Alright, so now that we've got all this taken out, it gives us access to where we need to start working in here. So we've got a couple of things that we got to take off on this end. So we got this ground wire. Got a sensor here, got one down here, one here, then we got this one that goes right behind here, and then we got this one up here, you got the other one down here, and then that's gonna, you know, get you that slack that you need, so nothing is connected, you know, in here on this end. And then we'll be working here. So if you can't get to those brackets and things right there. Alright, so I'll be back when all this wiring is disconnected. Alright guys, so we just about got everything disconnected. You know, we've got the ground out, we've got this sensor here, you know, we got the one down there, got this one right here, got that one right there. Did get this one out the top. Remember those little clips that I was telling you about? Just not lose those. Alright, very important. So now when we get to this sensor here, this master engineer decided that it would be cool to pretty much just F with us and put it in there backwards. So, you guys see that? myself one of these, a little flathead screwdriver. We're gonna go in there, we're gonna pull that sucker out, and then we're gonna fix that. Probably won't even put that back in there if that's the way that they engineered it to go. So just giving you guys a little tips and tricks along the way. Battery tray gonna be next. Alright guys, so here we are so far. You know, we got the wire harness from the top disconnected. You know, got all that good stuff. We're gonna actually redo everything as we go along. So all of these will get nice and taped up, nice black tape, pretty much brand new. We're wire brushing as we go, cleaning, you know, stuff up. Also, that nasty, icky battery tray came out. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna clean all that stuff up real nice as we're working. We're gonna leave it better than it was before. That's the key here. So now we have access, you know, we have some working room that we richly deserve, so that when we're doing these wires and everything, we don't have to be trying to maneuver around all this crap that was in the way. Also, by disconnecting that plug here is going to give us a little bit of slack here once we start disconnecting you know, these sensors on the other end. And again, we're going to make sure that, you know, it's nicely, you know, wrapped back in black tape as we go along. So we're trying to restore this the best we can as we go along. So now that that's disconnected, we're going to go ahead and start working on the other side. We also do still have, you know, that line that runs from the valve covers there. You can see that's in there, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. Right here we got that hose that goes back there to that IAC. Then we have a hose that goes right here. Just to right here. And then we have this little hose right here. And those two hoses are attached. That's still holding that top. If anything else comes up, we'll go ahead and get to it, and then we'll jump to the other side. Remember that there is going to be crap spilling out of those hoses, so yeah. Alright, so when trying to get to the back of that EGR2, we're going to have to take off that heat shield so it can help us out. So there's a bolt here, and then there's two bolts that go back there. If you see that one there in the top and then one just right behind it, and it'll take that heat shield out so that way we can help get to that EGR2 back there. We got that EGR tube disconnected back there. It's a pain in the butt. It's got three screws, two that hold it into, you know, the back, and then this is on a bracket, you know, off to the side. I did manage to save the seal, so that's pretty good. In order to get that thing off, though, you had to use a combination of things. So I used an extension, and I also used a swivel socket because it was just so hard to get back there. Even with removing the heat shield, that only just bought us so much more room. So that's another little tip. Now we're pretty much on the other side again. So what we did is we disconnected this hose else from the top right there, because that's going to need to you know, be free from this. And then now we're just working on the back brackets that are in there. Once we have those brackets good, then we're going to start doing the front, see if we can go ahead and get this to lift up. Then yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. That's what I'm going to cut for right now. Just so you're up to date, we've pretty much already taken out the 3 screws for the EG I showed you earlier. There's 3 screws for the brackets that hold in there. 2 are accessible from this side, 1 is accessible from this side, and you can actually feel. So if you see this little frame, I see this little frame right here, you can use that, follow your finger up, and then you can find screws back there that will go ahead and you know, take that frame from back there. So we already went ahead and we removed some of the hoses that were on here connected. As you can see, I already went through and taken out the corresponding bolts and nuts, because on the ends it has 2 nuts, and then there's a couple of bolts there on the top that you can see, all the ones that I've taken off. And then that one was from that bracket that I had showed you guys earlier, and there's the nut. So now this guy here pretty much already moves, so we're gonna ever so carefully finish taking off the hoses that we have left that do connect that top, you know, like this guy right here, which is connected to this top here, and then that guy down there. So then this sucker here should essentially move freely, and then we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna take that, we're gonna set it off to the side, and then I'll come back when that's all done. Quick tip, make sure you're disconnecting fuel injectors before you take it out. Just be careful, because they're in the back and it's kind of hitting in there, so you got to do it when you lift the lid up. You don't want what happened to me to happen to you, where then these wires all completely came out, which was just a freaking nightmare. And then you're not going to be able to really move this or pull it up. So we're pretty much you know, started. We have access to the back head now, which is what we wanted. So now we can actually do some damage assessment, damage control in here, you know, get the seals and clean all this crap up. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start by plugging these things up, because we don't want anything to get down in there. That'll be bad news bears. So we'll start there and then we'll come back to this. So now that we've got the top taken out, we've got the hose plugged up, we're gonna go ahead and start removing that back valve cover. You've got the 6 screws that go along the edge and the back. We've taken out the wires as well, just in case if you don't know the firing sequence, it's 1, 3, and 5. So that way when you go to put it onto the rotor, you know which wires go where. So once we get this valve cover off, we're gonna do the gaskets, the rings, the plugs, new wires, and then we're gonna clean everything up and then put it back together. And therefore we'll go ahead and do a little bit more damage assessment and see how far more we need to tear into this before we move any further. So I'll get back to you once the back head is off. So now we got that back cover off. We had to go ahead and loosen these 3 screws right here for this plastic, and then just pull it out ever so gently, and then the back valve cover will come off. So essentially this is what we got. And then we went ahead and took off that hose that was there. So now we're gonna go ahead and clean all of this up and get this seal changed out. That way we get rid of that leak, put the new plugs, new wires, clean everything up real good, and then we'll be ready to move on. So we're pretty much working on the back valve cover now. As you can see, you know, we've got up in here, got everything all nice and pretty, got brand new laser plugs in there, no expense spared. As you can see, even though the car looks like crap on the outside, you can see that nice gold inside. I never let this car go at more than 3,000 miles without changing the oil faithfully. So that'll help keep the engine. Now we just got to run some damage control and get all this sealed up, so that way we're not spraying everywhere. So to go ahead and get this taken care of, we went and used a couple of things. This little mini flathead screwdriver to get in there, you know, and work around very carefully to get this old busted gasket out of there. And then now we're working on the rings. As you can see, we got 1 off, 2 more to go. Then we're going to clean everything up real good, button it up, and then start putting everything back together and reassessing what else we're going to go ahead and change on here. Might as well change everything out that we can since we're already back here. We don't want to be playing around underneath here because it's just such a pain to get back there. So we're going to do everything we can, button everything up real nice back there, and then the front we'll get back to it in a later video. So that's where we're at right now. We'll get back with the rest. Look at how pretty that back valve cover looks now. We got the inside all cleaned out. Got that edge in there real good. You want to make sure you try to get all that crap out of there as best you can to get a good seal. So it's you know, about as good and clean as it's gonna get. So now we're gonna go ahead and start putting these seals back on it, and gonna go ahead and start putting this back on the car so that way we can keep buttoning everything up. Here it is. We got the back valve cover gasket on there. We've got our brand new rings, as you can see. Everything's all nice and cleaned up. Super clean around the whole edge. So that way we know we're not gonna get any little rocks or anything in there that could possibly cause a leak. And then we're gonna very carefully just go ahead and put this on. And then we're gonna go in a crisscross pattern when we put the screws on there. That way we make sure that we put everything on nice and level. And these should be torqued to 5 pounds if you have a torque wrench. So that way you guys know what the power manual calls for. So we're gonna go ahead and get this put back on there, and then we'll be right back. We got the valve cover back on there. We got our screws all nice and torqued down. We already did the inner rings, did the plugs. Now we're starting to put everything back together. So here's those 3 screws that I was saying to take the valve cover gasket on. So we're putting those back on, which holds the sensor. Once we do that, then we're going to do a little bit more cleaning. Then we'll go ahead and put the seal back on there. We're actually going to go ahead and do some work on these wires here, on these fuel injection wires, because they're pretty bad. If you see that, that's not good at all. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take care of those as well. And then we'll start putting this stuff back together pretty much in reverse order like we took it apart. So, you know, then we'll go ahead and flop this back over, get it in here, and then we're gonna put those 3 screws back in, and you can see for the bracket in the back. We're gonna put the EGR back on there, seals, and then we'll get the hoses. And we're actually, while we have these wiring harnesses out, we're actually going to go ahead and retape those back up. We're going to clean everything up real good in here, and I'll be back with a little bit more. So there it is. We went ahead and revamped and protected these wires a lot better than what they were before, so that'll avoid some problems down the line. The idea was to revamp and repair as much of this as possible. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna redo this one, so everything is going to be pretty much better than the factory by the time we're done putting this back together. So we won't really have to go back in there anytime soon. So I'll be back with some more. Alright guys, so we're back. As you can see, completely revamped the wiring harness on both sides. So that's gonna get us, you know, a lot more time, you know, out of these components. So again, we want to restore everything back to better than new whenever we touch it. So that's done. On to the next one. Here's the other side. So you can see the entire wiring harness has been revamped on it. So I know it takes a lot. It's a long process to wrap this all up and you know, troubleshoot, make sure there's no splices or anything like that, but it's definitely going to be worth it in the long run. I also went ahead and put the brand new seal in there. Of course, everything was nice and clean and pretty in there before I put that seal on there. So now we're going to go ahead and just clean up, button up, you know, and we're going to start putting this back together. We're almost done. I also went ahead and cleaned this side up. As you can see, it's better than when it came off the assembly line, which that's the idea. Anything we touch, we want to leave it, you know, 10 times better than what it was, so that way we don't have to retouch it and we can move on to other things. Alright guys, so we went ahead and put the back set brand new wires. You can see, you know, now they're not touching the engine, top of that engine right there. I was before, also caused some misfires, so we did some wire management in there and went ahead and put them in the corresponding places. As you can see, you know, I was saying before, 1, 3, and 5. That's how you know which wires go where. So it's going to be 1, 3, and 5. Alright, so we're on to the next one. Alright, so now that we've got the wires buttoned up, we've got our seal done, got the back plugs, valve cover gasket, rings, that's all nice and pretty too. As you can see, this one is. Now all we have to do is pretty much just flip this back over. We're going to go ahead and connect the fuel injectors back in there. Then we're going to start by doing the back brackets, and then once the 3 bolts in the back brackets are done, then we're going to go ahead and put our EGR tube back in there, and then we'll start buttoning everything back up. At this point, we went ahead and plugged in all the fuel injectors, inserted it back here in the front on both sides. We've got our EGR tube back there, back in. We've got the 3 screws back on the bracket. Now we're going to go ahead and get our ground on this side, and then we're going to go ahead and start getting all the connectors you know, set back up on this side, all the sensors, and then we'll, at that point, then start torquing these down. You know, you always want to go across, so you don't want to just go right down the line, so we'll do opposites all the way down. And then on the other end, we're going to go ahead and connect the sensors, and I'll be back on that side here in just a second. Alright, so we're pretty much already all done with this end. We've got all of our sensors connected, put back, just got done putting the heat shield back on there. So now we're just, you know, getting all the finishing touches. We're gonna go ahead and jump to the other side right now, get these sensors connected. Alright, here it is, pretty much home free now. Got all the sensors connected on here. We've got our 2 hoses that we disconnected back on. So it's the one right there behind the idle air control valve, this one right here. Got our ground back on there. We got our pins back put in there. Got this put back in there. I had ended up taking it out because this ended up causing some problems taking it out. Got the 2 hoses put back on there. Overflow back where it needs to go. Everything's pretty much solid at this point. All we gotta do is put the battery tray back in there, get that air intake, mass airflow sensor, filter, and all that stuff back in there, and we're good to go. That's it. I'll come back with a final look when it's all put back together. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. So yeah, there it is. Alright guys, here it is. We're all done. Everything's put back together. Now we're gonna do a little bit more maintenance on the next time around. I'm gonna go ahead and switch these wires out. I have those, I just haven't done them yet. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a new battery in there, so everything is gonna be really crisp. A couple of things, tips and tricks. Swivel sockets are gonna be your best friend, and as you can see me waving this little doohickey around, it's fantastic. It has a little claw that comes out on the end. Let's see if I can show you guys real quick. Yeah, that's fantastic for when you're working on the spark plugs. It's got a little LED light in there, and it's also magnetized because I dropped plenty of screws, gaskets, and crap doing this. So that was very, very, very good. So hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.